Convention of State supporters. My name is Whitney Taylor. I am your host for today's COS Live. I am joined by Andrew once again. Andrew, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Whitney. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm super excited to talk about some exciting things that are going on right now. Exciting is a positive way to put it. We're going to be talking about the presidential debate and breaking down what that means for the election and our thoughts on it, what it kind of means for us as citizens. So we're going to be talking about that. We also have an interview with COS volunteer in Connecticut. I'm very excited to talk to her. She has a lot of amazing things going on. And so we're going to be talking to her. We also have a Ask Us Anything segment at the end of today's broadcast. So definitely ask us questions if you have any throughout the broadcast, and we'll try our best to answer them for you. But first, we have our Article 5 trivia giveaway with Vice President himself, Mike Ruthenberg.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, Andrew. It's so great to be here. There's so much going on. There's so much news. We have a lot of things coming up to the election. I know you guys are going to talk with Lisa Jolly and going to talk about circle-of-10.vote. And boy, if you haven't gotten involved in that, couldn't be a more important time to talk about that. And of course, we will always talk about Article 5 and the Constitution, which is the centerpiece of why we're even here. And I'll tell you, regardless of what happens, I think we're going to find that as Washington gets more and more dysfunctional, Convention of States will become more and more important. So the first thing I want to do is let you know why I'm here. First of all, again, I'm Mike Ruthenberg, and I am here to give our trivia question of the day. I've got a couple of prizes that I'm going to give out to the person that gets the answer. First one is our pocket guides, a packet of 10 of our pocket guides, and I will throw in a wallet, peel and stick, cell phone wallet. It's a very limited supply of that. You can't even get that in the store. What you'll find with the pocket guides is that they are the most popular item in our store. So if you go to conventionofstates.com/store, you can find those pocket guides there if you're not the winner. But what's more important is let's see what you know about our Constitution. And we think about the Constitution as this 230-year-old document. There hasn't been much in the way of changes, but you probably know there's been amendments to the Constitution, 27 of them. And the first 10 of them were the Bill of Rights. And the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how recently we added the last amendment to our Constitution. And that's my trivia question for the day. When was the last amendment to the Constitution ratified? And hopefully your fingers are going in your answering this. And we will give our prize away to the person that gets that. And I will come back later in the show to give you the answer. In the meantime, let's get things started. And back to you, Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. So we're going to talk about the presidential debate that happened just this last week. And as many people predicted, it was pretty much the hot mess that we all expected it to be.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
He's not wrong. Yeah.
Accurate.
Yes. He's not wrong at all. The debate did not deliver much clarity on either candidate's position on any topic whatsoever. Between the crosstalk, the yelling, the insults, it was kind of hard to pick up what either candidate was saying or what their point was at any point in the debate. So you could literally just, shoot a random arrow in any point of the debate, and it would probably just sound the exact same. The whole thing was just kind of a mess. But the media zeroes in on President Trump's demeanor and just how the progressive voters should be upset with the way he handled things. And I mean, it was just all crazy. Joe Biden didn't provide any additional information on the three most important issues of this election, which are court packing, Senate filibuster, and the Green New Deal. In fact, his stance on the Green New Deal was pretty interesting. At one point, President Trump mentioned the Green New Deal, and then Biden said, "I don't support it." And then right after that, he followed up with saying that Representative AOC is going to be a huge part of his campaign, which was pretty interesting. The whole thing was just kind of confusing, and I watched it with some friends, and we just had a hard time. I was refreshing my Twitter feed, just trying to figure out what was going on, like trying to listen to some political minds for them to kind of dishevel everything that was happening. But it was really fascinating to me, though. I thought it was pretty crazy.
Right. I mean, it really seems kind of par for the course, don't you think?
Yeah.
Joe Biden saying that he does not support the Green New Deal, but then AOC being on his campaign. I mean, do we not expect this from our politicians? I mean, history should show us that politicians will say one thing and then do another. And I think Joe Biden is really no exception. You know, do we really expect him to have clarity on the issues? Do we really expect him to then be honest and faithful to the positions that he talked about in the debate? Or is he going to do what's politically expedient for him? I mean, the man has been in politics now for 47 years. He's very much cut from the cloth of the career politician. So, I mean, part of me was not shocked in that. But what was really interesting is the critics were really pointing to, like you were talking about, the insulting, the unprofessionalism, the interrupting each other. They really pointed to that, and as some of the pundits were saying, it was like a dumpster fire. But here's the deal. This is not really new within politics. If you just look at the federal government, for years and years now, and it's been very heavy on the showmanship and very light on the substance. And debates are the same. They really are just so heavy on this showmanship. And politicians, they go out, they stump on the campaign trail, and they talk about all these different things that they're going to do. They talk about all the policies that they are going to embrace as a candidate that are for the people, usually. But then they get elected, and then they do the opposite of what they said they were going to do. They forget the policies that they shared with the American people. And it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. This is where we're at. We keep seeing this year after year. I mean, the American people, honestly, Whitney, they deserve better than what we got at this debate. And they deserve better than what we've been getting for the past years and years now. Luckily, Convention of States was created for this very reason, because power has been centralized in Washington. And we are seeing just all this political fighting and this nastiness in Washington. It's all for power. But Convention of States can solve that. Convention of States wants to take that power, move it from Washington, and put it to where it's supposed to be, with the people, with us. We want to put it in the states. And then we might be able to see amendments that come out of an Article 5 Convention of States that would limit the size, scope, and jurisdiction of the federal government. And in case you haven't heard, we have 4 million supporters now. We have 4 million people who have joined this movement. And we have 15 states of the 34 needed that have passed the COS resolution. That's amazing. It means we're getting closer to being able to call a Convention of States. If you haven't joined the movement yet, and then you're tired of DC, maybe this is time for you to go to the Convention of States website and sign the petition. And if you've already signed the petition, maybe this is time for you to volunteer. So go to conventionofstates.com to sign the petition or to volunteer. And Whitney, I know you're going to introduce our guest, so I'll kick it over to you.
Yes, absolutely. And just to piggyback off of what Andrew just said, I just want to say, if you watch the debate and you still think that DC is working the way it should be, I think we need to reevaluate that. I think that was a good example of just the corruption of DC and how concentrated those powers are. So just another example of that. I am very excited to welcome Lisa Jolly, who is our district captain for Convention of States Connecticut, and she has been doing some amazing work for us. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well, and I'm really happy to be here tonight with the two of you.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. So I heard that there's an idea that you've had recently that has kind of paved the way. Would you mind sharing that with us and how you came up with that idea?
Sure, no problem at all. I became a district captain in Connecticut in June, right after I retired. I knew I wanted to become part of Convention of States. I'd been following your posts on Facebook, and I said after I retire, I need to get more involved, because I think I express what a lot of people in this country feel is absolute frustration with what's going on in Washington, D.C. So anyway, after I became a district captain, I bought a yard sign, a Convention of States yard sign, put that in my yard, and I decided to follow that up with letters in my neighborhood. And so I typed up letters explaining what Convention of States is about and why I decided to get involved, and asking them to sign the petition, once they'd gone to the website and checked us out for themselves. So I hand distributed those letters to all my neighbors. And it was really interesting because within a couple of hours, one of my neighbors called me and said, "Where do I sign up?" She was so happy to get the letter. So that was really cool. And then a couple days later, I was out walking with my granddaughter, and a couple other neighbors approached me and said, they signed the petition and that they were going to give my letter to all their friends and family, because a lot of people in Connecticut have not heard about Convention of States yet. So I guess it's our job to get the word out.
That's just so awesome that you are really taking the initiative, Lisa. That's just so amazing. We've seen in the past handwritten letters, how they can be very meaningful with legislators and with citizens. What do you think it is about a handwritten letter that is so impactful?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question, because I went to a GOP open house this past weekend to meet the candidates who are running in Connecticut, a few of them anyway. And when I introduced myself to our state senator, he said, "Your name sounds familiar." And I said, well, I wrote you a letter, a handwritten letter about Convention of States. And he said, oh yeah, I know. I remember that now. He said, "I get hundreds and hundreds of emails," he said, "and to get a handwritten letter is unusual. And so it stands out." So that's really the key. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing, is writing handwritten letters to my neighbors, to my friends, to my family, and to our politicians in Connecticut.
Wow, that is so cool. So since you've been involved in COS, and I think it's so great that you're a new person involved, that's just so amazing. This was something that you wanted to spend your time doing after you retired. That means that's a huge deal. That's so cool. Have you had any cool stories since you've been involved in COS? Anything to share with people?
Any stories? I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Any stories since you started?
It was nice to meet. We finally got to meet personally all the district captains and the Connecticut leadership recently, a couple of weeks ago. So it was really nice to meet in person with people and to share our enthusiasm as well as our frustration. But just knowing, finding out about Article 5 was mind-blowing to me, that our founders had the foresight to see what could happen because they'd lived under tyranny. And knew it could happen again. So they built it right into our Constitution, a way for us to regroup and get the power back. So it's really nice to meet with like-minded people who are as passionate as I am about what we need to do, and that we have to recognize our rights and responsibilities as United States citizens. And we cannot sit back and just wring our hands and say, "Oh, isn't this a mess?"
That's really excellent that you're bringing up the idea too that they're like-minded individuals, that you have a home to go to talk about these ideas and these frustrations, and that you get support and encouragement, which is just amazing about this organization. And I'm really glad that you brought up the idea that the founders knew, they had the foresight to see that eventually the federal government would get out of control, because they lived under tyranny. And so they knew that what can happen and how power can, transfer from the people to, the centralized government. So I guess what I would want to ask you then is, what got you involved with Convention of States? What pushed you to join this organization, and why?
Oh gosh, watching the national news was just I'd get so angry. I'd yell at the television set. And I'd wring my hands. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? And until I heard about Convention of States, I didn't think there was a way. I really didn't. It's like we're going down the tubes, and there's nothing we can do about it. So yeah, I couldn't wait to sign up and start working as a volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we have the Convention of States, there are a lot of things that could happen. Obviously, we want to limit the, general scope and jurisdiction of the federal government. We want to impose fiscal restraints and term limits on Congress. Is there something specific that you really want a Convention of States to accomplish if we were to get to that point?
Well, absolutely term limits for Congress. No one should be in office for 30, 40, 50 years. You lose your perspective. They're raking in money from somewhere. And I can only believe it's from political action committees and lobbyists. And I don't know, but you lose your perspective that you're there as a servant, a public servant. It's supposed to be a job that requires a certain amount of personal sacrifice. And it certainly isn't that anymore. Maybe it is when you first get in, but it doesn't last. So yeah, we've got to have term limits. And the budget deficit, what is it, 100 trillion when you include Social Security? We can't even imagine how much money that is. And, like I was mentioning, my granddaughter, she's 6 months old. We're passing that along to her. And it's not right. It's just not right. And
no, it really isn't.
Yeah, and the power, you read the Constitution. I'm taking Constitution alive, learning a lot. The power is supposed to be with the states, not in the federal government. So yeah, we've got to restore this country back to the way it was set up in 1787.
That's right, and luckily we have Article 5. Like we were saying earlier, the founders had that foresight. I really am happy that you brought that up because it shows their wisdom. The founders were so wise when it came to how human behavior worked and how government ought to be structured. So we can make a difference. Article 5 is the solution, and we can totally do what you're talking about, limiting the size, scope, jurisdiction, getting term limits, reducing the federal deficit. All of these things can be accomplished through Article 5. So my next question that I want to ask you, though, is what do you think is next for COS in Connecticut? What's the next goal that you have going on there?
Well, we're building our team. We're educating people. We need more district captains. We don't have anywhere near the number that we should have. So that's a major goal, is bringing on more district captains, more volunteers. I mean, it's wonderful when people sign the petition. That's important, of course. But we need people to go the next step, to say, yes, I will invest a few hours a week to write to my legislators, to tell my friends and family about Convention of States, to explain what Article 5 is all about. So, unfortunately, COVID has put a major dent in our ability to, attend fairs. Connecticut's big on fall fairs, and so those are not being held this year. But there's other events that are still happening, so we can set up tables there, and people are very receptive to what we have to say, and most of them are very willing to sign the petition.
That's so great.
Yeah, we've got almost 12,000 petition signers in Connecticut now.
Wow, 12,000. That's amazing. That is so cool. Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for being involved and for being so passionate about the cause, and obviously very educated on what we need to have happen before we can get to Convention of States, and just being passionate about that. It's such an honor to talk to you and have you on our team. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was nice talking with you also.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to Mike Ruthenberg. Before we go there, we actually have a special message from COS President Mark Meckler and Rick Green about a special offer that's just for you guys.
We are in the room where the Constitution was created, and I bet you wish you were here. Well, guess what, Mark? We can actually bring people into this room via video, and you can study the Constitution with other American citizens all over the nation. Every Monday night, we're going to be doing a live class. We'll show the videos of the class in this room, and then you and I will be right there to answer questions.
Yeah, you know, I've done a ton of study on the Constitution over the last 10 years. I got a library of constitutional materials. There's nothing like being here, and there's nothing like doing it live. When you participate in a class, you get so much more, a lot of information crammed into a small space. We're all busy nowadays. We need you to join us, spread the word. We need as many people as we can participating in this class.
Thousands of people from across the nation all together diving into the Constitution. We're starting on October 12th. If you miss a class, that's okay. You can join us the very next week, but we're going to go 6 weeks in a row. We're looking forward to having you with us as we dive into America's Constitution.
Absolutely love that. It makes me so hyped that people are actually spending time to be educated on the Constitution, because I think now more than ever we need that. So definitely go check that out if you watched that video. Also, we're going to go to the Article 5 trivia question with Mike Ruthenberg. Mike, take it away.
Okay, well, I'm back, and I'm sure you're dying to know, if you haven't already seen it in the notes, the trivia question for today, which we are giving away not only a phone wallet, but we are also giving away a packet of 10 pocket guides, which especially now are a great time when, regardless of what you think about what's happening in politics and the election and everything else, we have the solution to fixing the problems that exist within our federal government. And the pocket guide explains that incredibly well. Of course, you can get it online. If you go to conventionofstates.com, you can find our pocket guide there. You can go to the store and you can buy a pack if you want to get them around. But for now, let me give you the answer to our trivia question. The answer to the question, which was, when was the last amendment to the Constitution ratified? And of course, there's 27 of them. So we're talking about the 27th Amendment, which had to do with pay raises for Congress. And back when the Bill of Rights in 1789, when that was being written, this was one of the original in the Bill of Rights, this amendment. And the amendment was designed to make it so Congress, people in the Congress or the Senate, can't vote themselves pay raises. They would take place in the next Congress. And that's what the amendment was for, except it never was ratified. And then back in the day, in this case, 1992, which is the answer to our question. In 1992, the result of a Texas college student's efforts to get this ratified, it was actually ratified by 38 states. It takes 38 states to ratify an amendment to the Constitution, which means it's largely a mandate, which means that everybody agrees this should happen. So the 27th Amendment became part of our Constitution in 1992. So there is our trivia for the day. And now I will turn it back over to Whitney and Andrew and let them wrap up. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. All right, now we have our Ask Us Anything segment. We have one question that just kind of embodies everything. I think it's just a great question. Andrew, can you go ahead and answer this question for us? It's how do we make the Convention of States happen?
Well, that's a great question, and we get it so many times, and I love answering it because we are actually almost halfway there to making this convention happen. We need to get 34 states to pass identical applications within their state legislatures. We have 15 so far. That means we need 19 more state legislatures to pass the Article 5, the COS resolution to limit the size, scope, and jurisdiction of the federal government. So then what can you do to help? Well, the one thing that you could do is you could sign the petition. If you haven't already signed the petition, this is one of the key things. That petition then is going to go to your state legislator, and then they will see this movement grow and grow and grow. Another great thing that you can do is you could share on Facebook. Let's get the word out there about Convention of States. So many people have never heard of an Article 5 Convention of States, and they've never heard of our organization. They think that you just have to elect the right people in office to see the change that you want to see. To see career politicians reduce the federal debt and to limit the federal government's power. The best solution is Article 5. as I was saying, we have 15 states, so we're almost halfway there, and we can only get there with people just like you. That's the only way we're going to get to a convention. What do you think, Whitney? Does that sum it up, or is there something you want to add?
No, it's so great. That actually kind of just goes right into my send-off. That's exactly what we're all about, is definitely taking away the concentration of power from DC. And I think we all know when we look, like I said earlier, when we look at the debate or we just see our elected officials acting, just being normal people, we're like, oh, really? Like that's who our elected officials are, and we just need to drain the swamp. I think that's just the solution. And we're all frustrated with corrupt politics, but we can definitely do something to change it. So like Lisa said earlier, we need district captains and volunteers and leaders all across the nation. So definitely please go to www.conventionofstates.com. Take a look at our leadership and volunteer positions that are available. We are active in every single legislative district across the country. So take a look at your legislative district, and we can definitely use more boots on the ground in your legislative district for sure, no matter where you are. Even if it's a past state, we need to make sure that resolution stays strong, and we pass along the message to our neighboring states as well. So please go take a look at that, and just follow us on all social medias, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Make sure that you follow us, like Whitney was saying, on Instagram, on Facebook. Well, you're already following us on Facebook, but Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. Make sure that you're sharing too. Like I was saying, the way that we get this out is by sharing on social media. Go to where the people are. Tell people about this organization. Tell people about this movement. Continue to build the grassroots army that is going to get us to that threshold of 34 states so that we can get to a convention. It's the only way we are going to be able to reset Washington and take power from Washington and put it where it belongs, with the people. So make sure that you're on social media, sharing and talking with other people at Convention of States. Another thing that you need to do is make sure that you check out the battle cries on Sunday nights with our president, Mark Meckler. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's excellent. He always has amazing insight, amazing encouragement, and he's always talking about what's relevant, which is really cool. Love listening to our president, Mark Meckler. He's just an amazing individual. So go check that out. And then come back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time to watch another episode of Facebook Live. But until then, we have a country to save. So it's time for us to get back to work. Bye.
Hey everyone, Mark Meckler here for the Convention of States Project, and I want to talk to you a little bit about voting in 2020. Now, I'm not here just to encourage you to vote because I know you're going to vote. You're just like me, you and I are into it, and we're definitely going to cast our vote. Might surprise you to know that 56% of eligible voters didn't vote in 2016, and that puts us way down near the bottom of developed countries as far as voter participation. Well, at Convention of States, you know how we are. When we see a problem, we want to fix the problem. We don't just want to complain about it. So what we've done is we've started the Circle of 10 initiative to encourage you to find 10 of your friends who you might not know if they're going to vote. We want you to encourage them to get registered and to vote. First, sign up. Second, contact your circle members. Third, log your contacts. Fourth, follow up. Fifth, the final push. This is where the rubber really hits the road. Go to circleof10.vote and get signed up today. That's Circle of 10. Use the number 10